the victory celebrations, Jiang was the hero of China. But the quick end of the war left an important question unresolved. Who would take the Japanese surrender in North China? The communists raced to get their armies north. Nationalist troops were airlifted by America to arrive first. General Lu Jingzhao remembers what Mao said about Chiang Kai-shek.
He wants to come down the mountain to harvest peaches. That's what Mao said. Our people and our army had made great sacrifices behind the Japanese lines. So we wanted to take the surrender in those areas. I rode all night back to the front. You couldn't say we were harvesting peaches, but we did want to taste a few.
Civil war seemed inevitable. Patrick Hurley, now U.S. ambassador in China, persuaded Mao to go to Chongqing for talks with Jiang. The two men had not met in nearly 20 years, since the days of Sun Yat-sen in Canton. Jiang addressed Mao as elder brother, and Mao made the toast, "Long live Chiang Kai-shek." But the talks led nowhere. President Truman did not give up. He sent General George Marshall to mediate. An agreement was signed, and then quickly broke down. The Civil War began. At first, it went badly for the communists. In March 1947, Mao announced to his troops that they would withdraw from Yan'an because of a successful nationalist advance. But Yan'an was only a symbol and not the base of their power. Their real power lay in the vast countryside of North China and Manchuria. It had been built up during the war with Japan, when moderate reforms had attracted support from all economic levels of society. Now the communist leadership decided to expand their support by concentrating on the poor. They launched a radical land reform movement, attacking their old allies in the prosperous middle class.
In Li Lao Chi's house, we first drove out his cattle and pigs. Then we took all the furniture, cabinets, and trunks out of his house. We took all his clothes, too. After that, we shut him up in a small room and told him to write a confession. Then the people wanted to struggle with him. They shouted, "Li Lao Chi, you must confess honestly. Who did you exploit? How much money have you piled up? Where have you hidden it? You must confess." We struggled with him for a long time. He had buried his silver dollars underground. We got him to confess where he had hidden the money.
As the poor divided up the land of the prosperous, many communists were torn between the demands of the party and of their families. Even veteran party members were attacked.
When the reforms came, you had to go along with them. Because I was a party member, I had to take the lead. My parents didn't agree with me. Even though they were in charge of the family property, they had to listen to me.
At the time of the land reform, my family had a new cart, a horse, a donkey, and about 5 acres of land. We had a large family and enough food. And so one night, they sealed up our house.
All the landlords and rich peasants were locked up in one spot before the mass rally. I went and saw the situation was no good. I was afraid the struggle meeting might go wild. I was scared.
The meeting began. My father was Wang De, and they tied him to a post. Everyone in the village was there, and then they went crazy.
Some innocent people got beaten and some bad people got beaten. Village leaders tried to control the mob. They even sat on the landlords to keep them from being torn apart.
What they did was wrong. They ignored the facts. If you weren't poor, if you were better off, then you were guilty. That's how they reasoned.
Land reform had become mob rule. It tore families and villages apart. The communists began to lose support. In December 1947, Mao urged restraint. 5 months later, the movement was stopped. The communists tried to minimize the damage and backtracked to their moderate wartime policies. They managed to salvage peasant support. In the cities, people's lives had not improved after the war. Massive economic problems were undercutting Jiang's support. The government's financial policies were chaotic.
The currency system changed many times. The old Fabi paper money was changed to the new Fabi paper money. Then that was changed to the gold yuan. Then, when there weren't enough gold yuan, it was changed to the yuan shikai silver dollars. There was also gold, and even American dollars were used. The currency system was in complete chaos. So when people got paid in the morning, they would rush to buy things, because prices would rise by the afternoon. Sometimes the price would double. People had a rough time.
The homeless and starving filled city streets. Black market trading and corruption were widespread. To make matters worse, in 1947, floods in the south destroyed the rice crop. And in the north, there was a devastating famine. In response, the United Nations Relief Agency sent millions of dollars in aid. America continued to send vast quantities of war surplus and millions more dollars to help Jiang in his struggle against the communists. Many were certain that Jiang's family was embezzling huge amounts of this aid. He and his wife continued to ask for more. In 1947, President Truman sent Albert Wedemeyer back to China to assess the situation. Although it was clear that Jiang's government was corrupt and losing support, for America there was no alternative. Wedemeyer urged Jiang to effect immediate, drastic political and economic reforms. At the same time, he recommended more U.S. aid.
Wedemeyer's recommendation that we continue to support the government of Chiang Kai-shek has to be considered in the context of the times of the Cold War, in which the Chinese communists seemed to be allied with the Russians, and the hope that somehow or other military aid might contribute to the survival of Chiang Kai-shek's government.
But American aid could not win the war for Jiang. He made the crucial mistake of overextending his forces in the north. The communists responded with a change in tactics. They mounted a major offensive against the nationalist armies in the cities. The change of tactics worked. By November 1948, after only a month and a half, the communists won control of North China.
Nationalist troops were crossing over to us in divisions and armies. When we first got to the Northeast, we had 100,000 troops. Now we were 400,000 or 500,000 strong.
Our equipment all came from the United States and Chiang Kai-shek. There was a joke among the soldiers. They said that Chiang was our best supplier of American weapons. That was the joke.